Alrighty, this video is one of several that are going to be in a little series called Function Basics. All right, this is sort of a review. This is not an in-depth lesson. This is for the purpose of recapping what's super important for you guys to understand at the Algebra 1 level about functions right now, so that we're better ready to move on to next semester. First of all, let's talk about the definition of a function. So any two quantities, and when I say quantities, I mean x and y, any two quantities that vary in relation to each other, whether they vary at the same time, whether one is dependent on the other. Anytime you have that situation in mathematics, it's called a relation. A function is a special kind of relation where every input, every x, has only one output, one y. So let's take a look at this graph right here. This is actually a sine wave graph. You're going to learn all about these in Algebra 2. But the important thing I want you to know about it is let's take a look at the inputs and outputs. So you can see that several of the outputs are the same, right? Here it's a little less than -6. Here y is 0 when x is a little more than 2. And then down here, you have -4 as an output, -4 as an output. And it's obviously going to keep repeating itself. Well, this is a function because even though the y's repeat, the x's are different. So yeah, when x is -2, y is -4. When x is a little over 6, y is -4. Every input has only one output. That's what's important about whether a relation is a function. Let's take a look at this graph. As a matter of fact, this is a cube root graph, all right? And it might look a little tricky, but once again, I would say that this relation is a function. There's only one output for every input. Do not mind the bell. So let's press function and check our answer. Yes, we are right. So this is what I want you to watch now about this graphic. Do you see that vertical line that is passing through the graph? You can check if a graph is a function by using the vertical line test. If you draw a vertical line through the graph and it only touches the graph in one place, then the graph is a function. And you can see clearly as this little green line moves across the graph, it only ever touches it in one place. That is an example of the vertical line test. So this is another type of representation of a function. It's called a mapping diagram. Set A is your set of inputs, and set B is your set of outputs. And you can clearly see that every A only has one B. Yes, 7 and -1 both map to 3. But if you look at all of them, they clearly are a function. You're allowed to have values that aren't mapped anywhere, and you are allowed to map two inputs can have the same output, like we saw in our trigonometry graph, our sine wave graph. Okay, so let's take a look at this mapping diagram. This one is different. Is this a function or is it not a function? Look carefully at all of your inputs and all of your outputs. I hope you noticed that -3 wants to map to 3 and it also wants to map to 4. So that means that this particular mapping diagram is not a function. Yes, -3 and -1 both map to 3, but that is not the problem. The problem is that the input -3 has multiple outputs, and that is not allowed in a function. Stay tuned for the next video.